that I had at that speaker, I'm going to have to reuse later on. so that's good. The first session that we're going to do today is going to be a fireside chat with myself and Santosh. I'm going to introduce Santosh just now, who this company, Roche, is a huge company in the healthcare space, doing lots and lots of interesting work, massive organization, exploring the use of conversational AI. And Santosh Kumar here is the commercial services lead. And we're going to be talking to Santosh right now about how Roche is using conversational AI and the core platform to add value to its users and customers. So all the way from Singapore, boys and girls, ladies and gents, please can we have a huge round of applause for Santosh? Thank you for making the trip. I think it should be working. Quick test.
Hello, hello.
There we go. Perfect, perfect. Take a seat. Let's get ourselves comfortable. Everyone else is getting comfortable and sitting down and chilling, so we may as well join them and get comfy. Welcome to the UK, first of all.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, it's a long journey from Singapore. It's like almost like a 16-hour. Yeah, and it's not non-stop flight, so I have to lay over somewhere. Yeah, so this is the first time in Scotland, or actually, in fact, in UK.
Nice. Yeah. Well, welcome. Did you have any haggis yet?
Yes.
Good. Nice.
So we had our dinner party, I guess. Yeah, that's where we have tried this dish. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
It was delicious. Yeah.
It's all right, isn't it? It's nice. It's very nice. Cool. So, thank you for joining us, Santosh. Thank you for making the effort to get over here. Welcome to Scotland. Welcome to the UK. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Santosh, and Roche, and for those who might not be kind of as familiar, tell us a bit about Roche and about what you do there.
All right. So, yeah, good morning, everyone. So, my name is Santosh Kumar. I'm based out of Singapore, and I'm part of the ROS. I mean, now I call it just ROS. Earlier, like a few months back, I was part of the ROS Diagnostic. So, in ROS, we have multiple businesses, like a diagnostic division, we have a pharmaceutical division, we have a diabetes care. So, my role is right now mainly looking after not only diagnostic, but also the pharmaceutical. Yeah. And yeah, so my role, actually, I'm based in APAC, and I'm looking after all the customer service related application. And so basically, we have in APAC like almost like a 16 country, including China, Japan, Australia, some of the bigger affiliate, India. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And tell us a little bit about what Roche does. It's a huge organization, does a lot of things. Like, tell us a little bit more the detail in terms of some of the stuff that you're working on.
Right. So of course, as I said, we are like in a pharmaceutical. That's our parent company, and that's I think most of the revenue is coming from, right? And so all this drug, the R&D and the discovery and probably some of the the blockbuster drug, actually cancer drug, is coming from Ross. From diagnostic division, we have like we are in IBD, so we have like in vitro testing. So blood test, urine test, COVID test nowadays, right? So all those tests being done on the ROS analyzers worldwide. So it's a huge business, and that's where I'm going to talk about the use case where we have implemented our conversational AI in this dia field. Yeah.
Nice. And so share a little bit then around where did the need to explore conversational AI come from in the first place?
Right. So it all started like a 3-year back or 4-year back in 2018 or 19 somewhere. Of course, definitely it was before the COVID. So, healthcare is like a dinosaur, right? Because we are like a last frontier for the digitalization. We don't like change, especially in the healthcare domain. So that time we were trying to see the what technology can we use to solve some of the business problem, and we created the program called Clinical Utopia. That's the name of the program, and we say like, okay, we can explore some of the new technology which is happening in the industry right now, and the AI was one of them. 4 years back, that was kind of innovative topic, and then we decided to say like, okay, where the chatbot or the conversational AI can be used in our solving some of the business problem, and then we started looking the business use case, right? So being part of the commercial service, so for me, it's like it was very evident. We have a call center, and we receive like 250,000 calls 1 year. I'm just talking about the APAC, okay? And 80% of those calls are simple kind of inquiry, can be solved easily. Most of the calls are very repetitive. And then we started doing all this historical data analysis, right? Based on that, we say like, okay, what use case can be here, right? And yeah, so that's where the whole journey was started. And they said, okay, well, why not we can, train the bot to answering those 75% of those calls, right? You can imagine how much time you can save for the call center agents, right? And those time can be utilized for the better purpose, like complaint handling, the breakdown calls, which is more serious in nature, right? Not just asking some information and all that. So that's where our business use case we come up with. And the chatbot was perfectly, or the conversational AI was perfectly fitting for that purpose. And then that's our journey was started.
Nice. And quick show of hands for those here, who has kind of created a conversational assistant before? Who's built like a chatbot, voice bot, something like that? Yeah, few people not. You mentioned something there which I think is a really important lesson for people who haven't yet kind of done that, but maybe considering it is, you started by doing some analysis around those call drivers and stuff like that. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you approached that kind of process of doing that initial analysis?
Right, so our call is a little different than any other industry, right? So we are in healthcare, so most of the calls will come related to medical related information, scientific data related, or the instrument related information, right? They're asking. So it's not like as simple as what is my bank account or what is my bank, the balance and all that. So after analyzing all the data, we come up with a pattern. And that was a kind of, the moment where say like, okay, we have a very, the kind of pattern. We can see that in all this data, massive data, and I think it will be very easy for us now to train the bot based on this pattern, right? I mean, yeah, we can just identify some intent, and then based on those intent, the bot can be trained. So our whole data analysis team was involved. So basically, we spent a lot of time, because that time, 4 years back, also the data science was quite new, at least in my organization. So we spent a lot of time to doing some data analysis. We come up with some pattern, and based on that, we created those intents. So intent is just like the context, right? How do you identify the if you have a 10 question, out of 10 question might be you have a 2 intent, right? Because the same question can be asked in a different way, right? Because we are working in a multicultural environment. The same question in China and someone asking the same question in Japan could be very different way, but the answer could be the same. And that was the big challenge, because we are also dealing with a multilingual, the inquiry. So all this data analysis was done. I think that was a massive task we done, and then we come up with like, okay, now we know where is our gap, what's our needs, and then let's design our conversational AI. And that's where the workflow was started. Yeah. That time, we don't even talking about the bot, actually. We were just thinking like how the flow will look like, So the bot will come later. I think the technology part will come later. But first, I think this process flow is very important to define. We have a clear scoping. I think that's also very important, because bot cannot solve all the problem, right? You have to be very limited, like, okay, this is the problem we are going to solve. That's it. Outside, please set the expectation right to the business and the user.
So that initial scoping, was that defining, okay, what kind of queries are we going to be answering, and then what intents are we going to kind of escalate to a live agent, and just mapping out how the whole thing should behave?
Exactly. So again, all the data, basically, we have, the mostly data is instrument-related data, like analyzers. Those analyzers basically used in our hospital labs, commercial labs, and all that, right? So we're just trying to understand what are those 60% of the question is coming, right? Mm-hmm. And those can be really automated, right? Because definitely we have maybe 60,000 questions, but the answer could be maybe 20,000, right? So that's where we started kind of the drilling down the whole data and coming to the point like, okay, these are the different intent we have. It's not much. I think it was like only 200 intent we started with. Mm-hmm. And yeah, definitely it was growing, because the more user will interact with the bot, we'll have a more discovery. Like, okay, this is something new we have, right? Let's put it in that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how did you approach the implementation of it? Like, did you have expertise internally that were kind of working on this? Did you kind of, lean on, for example, Core AI? Like, what was that implementation process like?
So yeah, that was also we were very careful about who would be our partner, because in-house we don't have any expertise, right, that time, 4 years back. So definitely we were kind of scouting for the vendor, and for that we have set the very clear, the criteria, what the platform basically can deliver for us, right? We are trying to replace, so the whole idea of bringing this whole chatbot was to reduce the cost, that's the one thing, and also bringing customer experience, right? Because the customer is going to interact with this bot, so they will have a better, the same question can be solved within a minute, rather than customer is calling us and getting like 1 day to solve, right? So that was the two motive, and the selection of the platform was, one thing is, we are not going to hire the bunch of people to maintain this bot, right? That's not our objective. So the platform should be intuitive, should be kind of low code, and any non-technical person can train the bot, simple as that. So that was very, our criteria. 4 years back, when I, started the RFP, there was like a 4 vendor, I think we came across, IBM Watson, IPsoft, of course, Core was one of them, and there was another vendor. And then we analyzed all these criteria based on that, and we made a selection. Yeah.
Nice. Fast forward 4 years. We're kind of coming up on time in a couple of minutes, but fast forward 4 years. What's the current state of play now, and what kind of results have you seen?
So, in a 4 year, we have definitely, I think we have achieved a lot in terms of the introduction of this technology into our organization. So I think initially there was a lot of resistance from the management because they don't really understand the concept of the AI 4 years back, but definitely now it's more accepted. They now understand the needs, right? And in terms of the usage-wise, we have implemented this solution across APAC mainly, but also we have in Middle East, also being used in EMEA, in some non-English country as well. But of course, our current offering is still in English, and that's one of the limitations we have. We are trying to achieve that, how we can add more, the language. So right now, the resource-wise, the kind of content we have in the bot, I think it's easy to maintain right now. But this is the challenge we have is when we scale it up, so basically we need more content creator. And this is the challenge we have, at least in my business world, is it's very hard to convince whether the content creator, the role, even exists, Because everyone has their own day job. So we are not going to ask the business saying that, okay, can we have this role, separately? So that is some of the challenges we have, but right now, the kind of content we have, I think we are manageable. But definitely, I think once we add up more content, I think we need a more content creator.
Yeah, definitely. And how is the business measuring the success of this stuff? Are you looking at, I don't like to use the word containment because I don't believe it's necessarily a good metric, but how are you measuring what kind of needs have been met, so to speak?
So one of the success criteria was, of course, how we can reduce the number of calls. So we had a number, right? So like 250,000 of calls was coming in every year from all this APAC country. So the one criteria was, okay, once we implement this, let's have a 6 month, because definitely not everyone start using in a 1 month, right? So let's have a 6 month data and see if those calls for the particular problem is now coming through the chatbot rather than somebody calling on the hotline. So this was a very clear indication, and we analyzed with some of the country, with some of the problem, and it's like a shifting the needle, right, from the call hotline to the this channel. So that was a very clear indication. The second part, of course, is the cost, how we can reduce the cost. And of course, we are saving a lot of time because we are now deflecting all those questions to the this channel, digital channel. And the customer, basically, they're also happy because they don't have to wait for the call to someone to answer a very simple question. They can easily just ask this question. And yeah. So there was a 2 criteria, cost reduction, not entirely in the dollar value, but in terms of the the time saving, and those time can be reutilized in a better the purpose.
Nice, perfect. Well, I think we've got time for one more question, which is, you mentioned challenges there. You mentioned challenges around kind of like content and engaging the rest of the business to create content that's fit for consumption in a conversational channel. What are some of the kind of language support you mentioned also is a priority? What are some of those other challenges that those, who have yet to implement this kind of stuff are likely to face as they try and do so?
I think as I said earlier, you have to be very clear on the scoping. what the scope would be, because definitely the bot is not a superhero, right? It's not solving all the problem, and that's I think the miss. We have a kind of always we set the wrong expectation to the user, right? That's a very. The second thing is make sure you have done the all this pre-analysis, the data analysis, because we have to come up with some use case. And only we can come up with a use case if we have a historical data or historical pattern or whatever based on we can make a decision, right? And the third thing is make sure the flow is clear, the process flow is clearly designed before even you start implementing the bot. So who will do what basically and all that, yeah. Or maybe the last point is the focus on the user point of view, not from the technology point of view. Because always we kind of deviated, like, we have fancy technology or fancy platform, but we don't think about the user perspective, like what the user want. User wants simple two things. If I have a problem, that problem can be solved within a time, within a minute. That's only their needs, right? And then how we can provide the seamless conversation, throughout their whatever they're asking, right? So always the customer or the user should be always in a center of all the discussion whenever you are planning for the implementing the conversational AI.
Perfect, perfect. We've got time for a quick question. We've got one question here. If we can get, I don't know if we have a mic. You might need to shout.
Sure. I'm curious. I can see where this would be data-driven research, but I'm curious if you ever use like qualitative generative methods like rapid or observation studies as well.
Yeah.
So just before you answer, I'm just going to rephrase that for the online audience who might not have heard it. The question is, have you tried any other kind of research, like more qualitative research and data gathering around this initiative?
Right. So in a broader aspect, we also have, like, basically we do the survey kind of every year, right? And there's kind of CX survey, the customer experience survey. And that's where we also get the data, like, what is our qualitative, those parameters are saying. So what are the competitor advantages we have, or what other competitors are doing in a different way? Because we are playing in the same level field in our healthcare domain, right? So the only differentiator we have now is the CX, customer experience, right? That is the only thing. And how we can basically, bring the CX to our, to gain the competitive advantage, and how we can retain our customer. Yeah, so there was some study done, but not entirely for this application, but it was done based on kind of broadly, right? So where is the gap? How we can gain the competitive advantage. That was I think the whole objective, to doing those surveys. So we have done like all these 10 competitors, and we collected the data, and based on this say, okay, this is the CX part, the customer experience part is very important, and I think you should focus on that. And the chatbot or the conversational AI is just one tool, right? We have done some other thing to really, still, being competitive and make sure we are still, retaining the customer and all that. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Santosh will be joining us on a panel discussion after the first break. So if you do have any more questions, I know we had a question online. Apologies we didn't get to that. If you do have any more questions, send them through online if you're tuning in online during the panel, and we'll have an opportunity to explore this more deeper after the break when Santosh joins us on the panel. Santosh, thank you so much for your time here, ladies and gentlemen. Santosh Kumar.